I must jump in, Tigers. As somebody who's played football with you, I'm not having you comparing yourself to Wilfried Zaha.
What? I don't get it. Why are they going in for him?
But straight away, Anderson straight on him. What are you doing? What are you doing? And then the reaction.
I think he would be a really good signing in the very, very short term.
Ten Hag looks like he's drowning. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Panenka Weekly, the weekly football podcast, the sexy but serious football podcast. What do you reckon to that one, Tigers?
What a start.
I've had that one lined up for a while now. I thought you'd going to like that one. And the voice you just heard.
1 minute after last week.
Oh, of course, I know, right?
You had that banked.
That voice you just heard there then is the voice of Tigers. I hope you're very well, my friend.
I'm doing very well, mate. I'm very impressed with your stream. Congratulations. Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
How long did it last in the end?
33 hours it took. So if the listeners are hearing that I'm a little bit hoarse today in the old voice, it's because I've done a 33-hour stream trying to win the Champions League with Ajax. We did win it in the end, though. There's a spoiler. I don't think many of you were going to go watch 33 hours of it, but there you go.
I think you should. Good job you didn't do Man United. You'd still be here.
I think we'll get into that in a little bit, won't we? Also, alongside myself and Tiggs, we do have, of course, Rory. Rory, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Clate. Very, very well. Probably feeling a little bit fresher than you by the sounds of things, but yeah, all things considered, very well.
Yeah, I will say, a little peek behind the curtain here. We've decided to record this at 8 a.m. after that stream. So cheers, chaps, for that bit of scheduling. I'm going to try and drink some coffee whilst you two are talking today. Let's jump straight into it for today's episode. Let's jump straight into it. Before we do that, just a quick thank you to everybody for all the reception for episode number 1 over on the various places you could listen to the podcast, over on YouTube, where we will upload it as a video, and also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It should be everywhere where you would usually get your podcast. Thank you for all of the reception and people listening. Hopefully a few more people joining along the ride with us as we go through. If you are listening to today's pod on YouTube, make sure you do subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and leave us some comments as well. We really want to dive into some comments as we move on through today's agenda. We're going to look back, of course, at last week's this previous weekend of Premier League action. It's been a fiery week of Premier League action. That seems to be my overriding feeling about it. We will then move through to a big chat, as I think Tiggs touched upon in our intro there, about Manchester United, because honestly, what is going on at Manchester United? We'll get into that in a second. And then we will, of course, make our predictions for next week as well. Anything else you want to add to the agenda, chaps, or is that about it?
That's about it, but I think you're right. The fighting, it just seems to be everyone battling this weekend. Everyone hating, everyone is great, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
So
maybe
much
the
passion.
Weather. Yeah. So much passion. I mean, we'll get on to Nunez and his headbutts. But yeah, so much passion this weekend. Very, very strange one. And in fact, talking of that passion, our first featured game, if you like, is probably the fieriest, which I'm going to keep using this term fiery, I think. It's Chelsea versus Spurs. It's finished 2-2 at the Bridge, and it was a brilliant game. Really, really entertaining. If I could keep both eyes on it if I wasn't streaming, that would have been excellent. But it was really, really enjoyable.
So enjoyable, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good.
We didn't think that, did we? In our predictions last week, we thought it was going to be a ball draw. We thought they were both going to just defend, but they didn't really, did they? They sort of come out at each other. I think Tottenham started quite well, and then Chelsea came back into it, and it was sort of up and down. It had everything. It had fights, it had some good goals, it had some horrible refereeing decisions. Yeah.
I think specifically the Cucurella, the ponytail pull from, is it Romero who did it in the end? I think it was, right? Yeah, that was maybe the worst one. But yeah, it was, I think, exactly that. Chelsea coming out and playing football and looking quite good going forward is, I think, a surprise to all of us. We all put down, I think we all said a draw.
I said, yeah. I actually went for 2-1 Spurs, which,
oh, you did, didn't you?
Back,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they were a little bit slower out of the gate maybe than Chelsea, but yeah, very lucky to get the draw in the end, some might say, with the last-minute win, but last-minute goal, but yeah. Yeah,
they did enough to get it, though. I think they stayed in the game. I think there was a bit of character shown there. If I'm just looking at the stats here, Chelsea, for all of our slating almost last week, talking about how they were boring and didn't look like they had a cutting edge, scored 2 against a highly tipped Spurs team here. 16 shots in the end, only 3 of them on target. Maybe that does speak a little bit towards that cutting edge that we talk of. By the way, talking of cutting edge, is the answer Anthony Gordon?
Oh, are you reading my notes too? There's a couple of points, and that was one of them. Why? I don't get it. Why are they going in for him? How many players have they got in that position?
Yeah, I think
I don't get it. They are dying for a centre forward. I thought, how many? Like you said, what did they have? 16 chances, only 3 on target. Was it that Havertz chance quite early when they when he whipped it in? That was just
the left foot volley,
scored, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, I thought if they need to get a striker, especially they got that Brozier on the bench. I just feel like they need a focal point. That's the one thing they were lacking yesterday.
Yeah, I wonder if it's kind of he's been a bit scarred by the strikers he's brought in that haven't worked, like the Lukakus of this world. And I've got this little feeling about Tuchel. It's maybe an agenda that I've developed, that he doesn't know how to get the best out of the attacking side of the game, whereas defensively he's got this system with the back 3 and everything that he seems to know what he's doing with it. But attacking wise, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't seem very fluent going forward. Every now and then they'll put a few bits together and you think, okay, that's what they could do, and Havertz is involved. But it seems a little bit broken is my read of it. And I think back to a quote towards the start of the window where it wasn't even towards the start of the window, a few weeks ago, where he talked about he wants more runners, and that's why he went for Sterling. He wants players to run with the ball and run off without the ball. And I just wonder if that's maybe his answer to not being able to use that focal point of a striker is to just get loads of runners in behind. So you have Anthony Gordon running off one way, you got Sterling running off, and then you've got Havertz who's very mobile in the middle. That I think that might be what he's kind of going for, which I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but it sort of speaks to that and feeds into that, doesn't it?
I mean, they haven't had a terrible start, have they? But sorry, Rory, I was just going to say, Havertz missed from 6-7 yards, and it was their centre-back who scored a worldy volley, and then their full-back who finished off for the 2. So, I mean, what you just said then, Rich, you can't rely on your defenders to score your goals for you.
No, how often do we say it that the good teams have that constant stream of goals, and it's usually from your one striker. Even the likes of Liverpool have got your Salah, who is your one player you rely on to get your goals as you move on through. It's a little bit short-termism. I don't think they can rely on Kalidou Koulibaly scoring mad volleys every week.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting point, though, isn't it? That they kind of, as you touched on, they've got Sterling, they've got these runners, but generally, if you're playing kind of the non-striker, if that makes sense, we saw it with sort of Foden maybe operating in that position for City. You've got to pack the quality round them, haven't you? With like the Grealishes, the De Bruynes. I just don't really feel like Chelsea have that. For all Mason Mount, he is a good player. He's not going to get tons of assists, tons of goals. Neither is sort of the players they've got maybe backing up, like Ziyech and Pulisic. They're just not maybe the big enough squad or enough quality in those positions maybe to play that style. And as you say, you can't keep relying on sort of your wing backs and your centre backs to be getting your goals every week.
I was just going to say, I think what you've touched upon there is really important, in that when you think of City and how they operated without that focal point last season, without that main striker that they've gone and got this year, you could list so many of those little attacking midfielders, couldn't you? Your Fodens, Bernardo Silvas, Grealish, Mahrez. They had so many that they could interlink everything, move people around. They always had players. They played Jesus wide. We've seen how good he's been for Arsenal. The sheer number of them and the quality of them meant that it could work. And I think with Chelsea, it's almost like they're trying to do a similar sort of thing, but they haven't got enough good players to do it. And if Mount's not quite on it, and how good would Mount be in a functioning Chelsea team is what I think. And when maybe not relying on him, but he's a cog in the machine and he could just get the ball, move it on. He's so good on the ball. It's the parts are almost there, aren't they? But they maybe just don't have enough of them. Is maybe what I think. And also the Havertz thing is quite interesting to me in that you look at it on paper and you think, oh, he's a false 9. He's absolutely not a false 9. He's a 9, is the way that they're playing him. He's doing all the things that just a normal striker would be expected to do, or I should say a regular striker would be expected to do. But I don't think he's a striker. Is how I feel.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a really good player, but I don't know what his best position is.
Yeah.
Because he can he's got so much talent. He can run with the ball. He's strong. He can hold it up quite well, but he doesn't have enough goal scoring sort of nous to be that real focal point, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't. We talked a little bit about it with Liverpool last week, and Firmino coming in. He's still going to want to drop in. He's still going to want to drift wide, which sometimes can be great, but very often Chelsea are going to be looking for that run in behind, especially if you've got those other runners. You just want that run in behind. You want him to come short, give the ball. You want him to do striker things, which it isn't his natural game. And as soon as a player's not doing his natural game, it's where I think you lose a bit of their. You said about players not playing in the right positions. I think they're kind of doing that with Havertz, because you can see there's so much talent there. Lovely haircut as well this week.
He is only 20. He is only 23, isn't he? But for a man so far that has only averaged sort of 1 in 5 at Chelsea, you do worry about if he's going to be the man leading your line. And I know they've had a lot of failures up front, but you've just got to be looking at that team going, we just want a striker, we need a striker. And Havertz was never brought for that role, was he? And you kind of worry that they're kind of shoehorning him in. Like Sean said last week, you don't like players playing out of position. And for a guy of only 23 who's never led a line before, I don't know, they've kind of just got blown away by that Champions League goal in the final and just gone, that's our striker. I just really worry that maybe he's not going to be the guy for them.
Yeah. So Rory, who is the guy?
It's not a position that you can kind of... Well, that's the problem. They don't have the guy, do they? I don't think there is anyone at that club. Brower, I like Brower, but he's not a Champions League striker. Sterling isn't, again, he's not really a forward in that sense, is he, that's going to lead the line. But you also look out on the market.
Been linked with Aubameyang.
I don't think there'll be many Arsenal fans glad to see him back, and you know, with the sourness that went on sort of late in his Arsenal days, is he really the guy that you want to be bringing into a squad anyway?
Probably not long term, but you know, he's probably not going to play at Barcelona now. He's getting on, yeah. I mean, he seems to have a bit of his pace still, but if he sits up front, he probably would play week in, week out. I think he would be a really good signing in the very, very short term.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? I think in a short term one, I think it does make a bit of sense, and it's a strange one because I don't think many people would have seen this move when he was leaving Arsenal and the end of his Arsenal career. But yeah, I think from all the points we've made,
6 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that even that long ago, is it? I think from all the points we've just made about needing a striker, someone to run in behind, then actually he's kind of that archetypal striker, isn't he? Who will run in behind and will take a chance if it comes to him. So maybe that will transform them. Maybe they've just kind of gone through this period now where they don't look quite very settled, but they've got themselves some okay results there to start the season. Let's speak briefly about Spurs as well, then the other team in this game, managing to fight to a 2-2 draw. Is anything that stands out from them in their performance? I think, as we talked about, fiery was my overriding feeling.
Yeah, for me, I was impressed because it was an anti-Spurs result. They didn't play very well at all, I didn't think. Harry Kane really struggled, but they came away with a result. Yeah.
Yeah, the opposite of Spursy. Yeah, coming to get that. That'll be a big lift as well, because we talked about if they could win here, it'd be a statement. I almost feel like grabbing that late draw and not losing and avoiding the Spursy feeling around the club.
Whilst not playing very well, that's almost as powerful.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, come the end of the season, that could be a real big point.
Yeah, and speaking of really big points to go towards a title charge, Liverpool grabbed a point at against Crystal Palace at Anfield last night.
Oh, Rich. So I've got a question.
Yeah.
For my two mates on this podcast who are Liverpool fans, have you lost the league?
League's gone.
2 game weeks in. Have you texted your mate back yet?
Yeah, I texted him back straight away. Final whistle. I said, "Yeah, you're right. The league's gone. It's over. It's done." Disappointing.
What an enjoyable game that was for the neutral.
Very disappointing. Really?
Yeah,
that's actually a genuine question. I know that you've seen Liverpool drop points, and actually watching the underdog achieve, I guess, there's a lot in that. And I've seen plenty of that this weekend of seeing teams that I don't like lose or drop points, as we'll come on to. But there was a lot, the time wasting and all that. Did you like seeing the darker side of the game? I've seen a bit of debate about it.
They went down a couple. I think it was 8 minutes in they first went down, and one of my mates said, "God, this is going to be a long day. Time wasting already." But the thing I quite like about Palace is I've always liked Zaha. So whereas in you do get teams who really sit back and really have the dark arts, but Palace have always had that quite efficient outlet. And his goal yesterday I just quite enjoyed. And I like Liverpool. All my friends are Liverpool fans. I watched it. There was 8 of us last night, and I support Villa. One of a lad supports Blackpool, and the rest are Liverpool fans. So I was soaked up in the emotion.
Yeah.
You should have won comfortably. I mean, you should have been 2 or 3-0 up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
obviously we're going to touch upon the mistakes and.
Yeah. I've got the stats here. 24 shots to Liverpool, 73% possession. Only 4 on target again, though.
All I would say is, how many times did we really force a save out of Guaita? There wasn't many real times where you thought, oh, actually, we've really tested the keeper, we've really carved open a great opportunity. There was one, Darwin Núñez at the back post. He should at least get something on it. And then you've got the other one where he gets played through, and I don't really know what happened, but it somehow hits the post. It was like the weirdest contact ever. It was just. Yeah, it looked like he kind of went to hit it, and the defender slides in at the same time, and he just again gets very little sort of firm contact. Oh yeah, I think
it comes off the defender, doesn't it? He also had the one where he went through and then appealed for that handball where he managed to kick underneath the ball, and it just went off to the left. Very strange performance from Darwin Núñez. It was a stinker, wasn't it, from Darwin Núñez? Even before the red card, I think you could say he was struggling. I was chatting to a few people about him, and I was kept trying to go back to it, saying, look at the positions he's getting in. I think he's snatching at things. I think he's trying, like first Anfield game, I think he's trying so hard to impress. And I think that probably plays into the red card as well, in that you could see he was just pent up on emotion, and that he was just, it was too much. And then he reacts because he's so emotional in that game, and then he reacts and does that stupid headbutt and gets himself deservedly sent off. It was a stinker from him, really. But the media are going to be on his case from now on, and opposition fans, this is going to be a tough time for him because he's going to be banned for a few games now, and that's a tough thing to come back from. That will not have impressed Klopp. I
mean, Anderson played him like a fiddle already, didn't he? He kind of, he's a big imposing centre half, but he's kind of, niggling at him. You see Núñez kind of leans into him beforehand. Little bit of something there, not a lot, but straight away Anderson straight on him. What are you doing? And then the reaction. But he doesn't have a history of this. It's not like when we've bought other South American strikers where they've got a bit of a history. It's not the first time he's ever done anything like this. But like you say, it is just the emotion, the stress of that first Anfield game, and I just can't believe watching it what he was doing. He just Klopp won't be happy, and I hope he's running laps today, to be quite honest. He's absolutely killed his teammates, hasn't he?
Yeah, Klopp spoke in the interview afterwards, didn't he, and talked about how he was gutted, and Klopp was quite honest in the interview, I thought, and talking about how he was disappointed with it. So, yeah, I think we will.
Not even just for yesterday, your players are dropping like flies, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure Firmino, is he out for a long time, or is it just a niggle?
It was just a small little thing, but yeah.
He might not be back for next week. You're thinking you've got United, and because it was a weaker team you started yesterday anyway.
Yeah,
I
that Phillips centre back.
You thought, oh, so what are you going to do next week if Firmino's out? Núñez is 3 games. All of a sudden, it's harder to fill those gaps, and it's sort of a similar thing, like Rory said earlier. It's similar with Chelsea. You're now going to really lack that focal point.
Yeah, I kind of wonder maybe if Harvey Elliott will move up one, and we'll play maybe Henderson, Milner and Fabinho in the midfield, or maybe Keita might be back. But you just look
can't watch any more false nines. Why?
Well, I think we might see Salah through the middle, isn't it, and that type of thing. Yeah, I'm sure there's a plan, but yeah, it's disappointing. 2 draws from the first 2 games. I don't think many people would have had Liverpool down for that from Fulham and Palace. They've got a bit of work to do there. It's 2 draws, and it is certainly not the end of the world, and it's not quite league's gone as we laughed about before, but a lot of work to do there. And I think before we just move on, I think we do need to give a bit of credit to Palace there. I think they came out with the plan that is the blueprint on how to beat Liverpool. You do have to absorb things. I think the first 20 minutes you're looking at Liverpool thinking this could be 5-6, but they rode the storm a little bit. They get that goal on the break. They time the run. They're playing off Phillips. Zaha was smart in how he played. He was on Van Dijk and then would move across to Phillips and then play off Phillips smartly. The Eze's little turn. It's a really good goal. It's the exact goal you're trying to score against that Liverpool team with their high line. Finish is actually really good. If you watch how Van Dijk almost lets him take it from there, because he could have charged in, which would have given Zaha the chance to cut in and give himself a better angle, but he doesn't. Van Dijk's like, all right, take the shot from here then, because he's quite what the angle's not great. The finish is perfect. That little sound is
brilliant finish, absolute brilliant.
Supporting Villa, Ollie Watkins, really good, athletic, brilliant player. He can't finish like that.
Yeah, he can't do it, can he?
Ollie Watkins had that. When you watch a team who cannot finish, Watkins especially, when you see him open up his body, he hasn't, like you said, he hasn't got much to aim for, but he just caught it in beautifully. And I'm sure everyone's the same. When you play football, some of you amateur, some of us semi-professionally, professionally, etc. You do relate to certain players, don't you? And as a striker who'd love to try and get in places and score goals, there was just something about that Zaha, just something about it. The great run.
I must jump in, Tiggs. As somebody who's played football with you, I'm not. Yeah, I've got to jump in, because someone who has played football with you, I'm not having you comparing yourself to Wilfried Zaha. I'm not having it. No, I'm jumping in.
More of an Ollie Watkins, aren't I?
Yeah. But yeah,
he could have won it as well. He could have won it as well.
Oh, he could have
had
done.
A good chance.
Which is the part of me where actually there was some decent football from Liverpool. I think the first 20 minutes, I think if you then put one or two of those away, completely different game, isn't it? And I think actually the reaction to the Palace goal first half is shocking from Liverpool. They really struggled to do anything after that. They looked like they were rattled by it, and I think they were rattled by it. Get to halftime, they come out after the whistle, and you see with the Diaz, by the way, it's going to be, I think hopefully this is a bit of a turning point for him, where we see the true, not that he's been bad, he's been really good, but I think there's an even better player in there. If you talk to any fans of Portuguese football, when you think about how excited people were about Nunez, people are like, Diaz is the real deal, though. You've got Nunez, who is one level. Diaz is actually a level above in terms of, if you listen to those Portuguese fans. So I'm hoping we see a bit more from him and he kicks on, because that is a hell of a goal. And for a bit, Liverpool looked really good. Could have won it with the 10 men as well, which would have been quite a dogged performance. But well done, Palace, grabbing their draw at Anfield. I'm sure that will help them after they lost on the opening day. I think we should move on to our final focus game of today's episode, which might bring out a slightly longer conversation, because where do we start with Manchester United, who have just lost 4-0 at Brentford, against Brentford?
I'm going to start with saying that is the worst first half performance I have ever seen.
Yeah, it's difficult to argue. Because it was 4, and it could have easily been more, and how enjoyable was it to watch?
We're trying to be unbiased here, but it was. There was a lot of fun text flying around. There was a lot of happiness. I mean, that shows how good Man United have been over the years. That sort of result brings out so much happiness in rival fans.
Just have you seen that the meme of the cat who's typing on the computer really fast? That was me doing memes, tweeting them.
You're just thinking this is content. Yeah. I love this. Last year, when Norwich were really struggling, City were top of the league. If City did that to them, the Twitter trolls would have been out in force saying, Norwich shouldn't be in the league. What a waste of time. What is the point? It was that bad.
Yeah, no,
Brentford
it really was.
Will bet in every single little thing that they did. Man United looked like a championship team. If they played like that, they will go down. If they played like that week in, week out, they would go down. They won't. But that's how bad the performance was.
I mean, you look at the goals they've conceded. So many of them have come from when they've got the ball. It's just like how quickly the play breaks down, how vulnerable they are at the back. I mean, we'll probably get into a bit more detail in a moment about sort of playing Christian Eriksen as a 6, but they just had no protection for the back 4. Martinez, I mean, I think we've probably quickly realising that you can't be that size and play in the Premier League. We'll leave that. I think that says all we need to say. But
size.
But he gets bullied by Ben Mee at the back post for the one goal.
He seems so. He doesn't. Yeah, he's not strong enough. He's not smart enough.
Well,
he's
that goal as well. It looks like he's trying to wrestle Ben Mee rather than attack the ball. Because Ben Mee doesn't head it in. He kind of falls over, hits it in. It's not like...
He doesn't win it in the air, does
exactly,
he? Ben Mee is not actually jumping. So it's not his size there at all. It's literally just that Martinez, what he's doing is... it's bizarre defending. And, you just think like short centre backs have existed and they've been successful. Fabio Cannavaro does not concede that goal, does he?
Let's not put him in the same breath as Lisandro Martinez. But no, I take your point.
Well, it's all right. No, Tigers has just put himself in the same breath as Wilfried Zaha. So, I think.
But quickly Google how tall is Cannavaro? When you say short centre back, he was probably I'm going to say
5'8", is he?
5'10". I don't know. Let's have a quick look because I've got a feeling that Martinez is, he's a small human being, not just a small footballer.
No, they're the same size, both 5'9".
Oh, I'll
There
take
you go.
that then.
So
Okay, fair enough. He doesn't just.
Good comparison.
He doesn't. Yeah, no, well, edit that bit out. But he doesn't command. He doesn't command a presence like Cannavaro.
no, Martinez
I'm sorry, he's
plays
not
like
smart
he's 5'9". Cannavaro played like
Yeah.
he was 6'2", and yeah, I mean, actually getting back to sort of the real thing with United, it just. They're playing out from the back, and De Gea is notoriously not a player that should be playing out from the back as a keeper. He's got some of the worst stats in the league when it comes to mistakes from passing out. He sells Eriksen so short with the second pass for the second goal. The first goal, obviously, that is just an absolute clanger. That's a once every couple of years mistake.
Yeah.
But it's just...
not De Gea.
Well, yeah, but it's just like the general attitude of, oh well, we're arrogant enough to believe that we can come out, play from the back against a team that is going to press us so high up the pitch. I mean, Brentford must have been licking their lips when they saw those first couple of short goal kicks. But when have you ever seen, other than on a Sunday morning, your goalkeeper doesn't take your goal kicks? They're letting the centre back play to the keeper to then try and build the angle for De Gea. It's just inviting pressure because you're playing like a 2-yard pass across your goal line effectively to then just let Tony and Mbuemo rush in on you. It's just so bizarre. I was watching it just thinking, am I the only one that's like watching this just thinking, what on earth are they thinking? And it's persevering with it after it didn't work at Brighton.
I'm so glad that you've used the word arrogant there, because that was my read of the situation. And that comes from Ten Hag, like the way he set this team up. It feels like arrogance, maybe ignorance, if you're going to give him a bit of a pass. Because when was the conversation we were having about De Gea not being able to play out from the back and being poor with his feet? 4 years ago, maybe. Like, right? It's not as if that's a new thing. Like coming in and doing De Gea, like that's why when Ten Hag was linked, that's why people were saying, right, it'll be Dean Henderson next year then, because De Gea can't play with his feet and Ten Hag's going to want... He's come in and tried to get De Gea to do it. And he's come in and he's tried to play football, this philosophy with a team that's broken, a team where the morale is absolutely through the floor, and he's tried to impress these principles from here, which they can't... It's suicide. It's at best ignorance, but probably arrogance. And playing Christian Eriksen in a 6 in the Premier League is, honestly, it makes absolutely no sense.
He played as a 9 last week. Eriksen must be thinking, just play, just put me in the middle, please. He'll be on the wing next week.
Yeah, what's the plan? Because it doesn't even seem like... I mean, from this, maybe you can think the plan is to play that football and play out from the back, but they didn't even do that much the week before against Brighton. So
the makeups are going along, but there was no game management. You should have seen the game. The first 10 minutes, the first 3 minutes, how Brighton were on them, pressing so much. At that point, he should have stopped. No back passes from the back. It's not going to work. You could see Brentford building, and growing.
literally, you could see like the glint in Jensen's eye as he's like, hang on a minute, they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. Like, and he goes, literally, you watch him. There's one clip of him where he looks and goes, hang on a minute, they've set up to do this again. And he just goes and moves 10 yards further forward and goes to sit on them again. It's, honestly, it's, game management.
It's frustrating to watch. Because if you look at City, you look at Liverpool, not only are the keepers quite technically astute, but they're playing into good footballers. Not only for Man United does De Gea struggle with that particular aspect of his game, but he's passing it into Maguire a lot of the time, who has got zero ability to pass the ball.
Yeah, that was probably part of the problem. That's where maybe it is this arrogance that you think you can come in and play this type of football with players like Harry Maguire and Diogo Dalot and Luke Shaw, who aren't in a system that suits them. They're all functional footballers, but they're not playing out the back, making the angle and playing to on their own goal line, and it's not them, and they're not in a mental place right now to be doing this. You can't go away to a Brentford and do that. Like, Liverpool couldn't get a result. Look at the results from teams last year at going to Brentford. They got really good results against really good teams there already because of the way they play. They're in your face, they're physical, and yet Ten Hag's gone, right, we're going to go and do this now. De Gea, play it out to Eriksen. You play as the 6. I'm sure you'll be a decent screen. It makes no sense to me.
Is the worst thing that happened to them having a decent pre-season? Because it kind of felt like there was a bit of optimism about United. Oh, I mean, I don't really buy into pre-season friendlies, but, they beat Liverpool. They had some good results. I think they beat Palace as well, didn't they? And everyone was like, actually, Martial's hitting the goals in. Obviously, he's got injured, but Rashford was scoring. Sancho looked lively. And we can have Ronaldo back in as well. And everything seems to be working. And it's just like, as soon as there's any pressure applied to this team, they just absolutely crumble. Is that kind of the worst thing that could have happened to them, is them having a decent pre-season?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of set them up it's given them a bit of false sense of hope, hasn't it? And maybe a false sense of achievement, and that they're at a place where they're just they're not at that place. They're not anywhere near that place. And I think Ten Hag looks like he's drowning, is my the way that I see him. You see him on the sideline there. They've gone 2-0 down. They've gone 3-0 down. They've gone 4-0 down. He's not really done anything. He looks like he's drowning in it all, which is not what you want from a manager. And I think maybe thinking a little bit.
You both mention arrogance. I think it's just a lack of tactical experience and a lack of quality. And I don't know whether, because I read an article, someone saying, Ten Hag's sort of learning about the Premier League. I don't really buy into that. The Premier League is what the Premier League is. It's always been like this. You do your research.
When do other managers get that type of?
How could you get it? How can you get that so wrong?
Yeah, look at like Thomas Frank coming to the Premier League. We didn't give him in the other dugout there. We didn't go. He's learning about the Premier League. If Brentford go back down first season, we go. He was learning about the Premier League, do we? He's not
at all.
You sink or swim,
lesson, didn't he?
Yeah.
Thomas Frank taught him a lesson at the weekend. I mean, they just play to their strengths. They work so hard tactically. They know what they're doing. They looked a real outfit.
Yeah, they did. They were really, really effective, and they preyed on those United weaknesses perfectly. I think we need to talk about the bigger picture at Manchester United here, because there's been a lot on social media. We've had the Gary Neville passionate speeches. We've had, Jamie Redknapp telling him to look at him during interviews, which was glorious, wasn't it? That was really good. But this whole thing about the ownership and the protests, I've kind of got a bit of a thought on it, in that it seems a little bit.
To see what you say here. I'm going to share my points afterwards, because I think you're going down the same route as my thought process.
Okay, we'll see, because I don't know if this is necessarily the shared view, but I think it seems to be the way that, I don't know, the perception of it on social media anyway, is that obviously the ownership is a bit of a circus here, and they've taken money out of the club over a sustained period of time, and obviously if that was my club, I wouldn't be particularly happy with having the Glazers in charge. But I think this is a separate entity to the situation that the football club on the field is in at this situation right now, because this football team is still a very expensively assembled football team with players that are international players, with a manager that is not getting a tune out of them. Now, you can't tell me that Luke Shaw is there going, after that game, they're 4-0 down to Brentford at half-time, and he's in the dressing room going, oh, the Glazers. Like, that club is rotten to the core, yes, but am I naive to think that Ten Hag should be getting more out of these players despite all of that? I don't think so, because I think what if you think that, and that seems to be the. I know that maybe Gary Neville's speaking more as a fan here, which actually I like to see that in the media. I like to see the fan point of view, because I think that's the part of the game that is very, very difficult to put across in the media. That actually that is the heart of our sport, isn't it? But I think they are two separate things that can be mutually exclusive here. I think you can absolutely hate what the Glazers are doing in charge and in controlling this football club, but also be expecting more on the field from footballers that they've got. And both things can be existing at the same time. And I think some of the fans straight away going, right, this is the Glazers' fault, is a bit
deflective.
A bit deflective.
They're not as related as people think. So I read about the sort of debt issue, how they took over some debt, Man United more debt, etc., etc. That is a business issue. They have still spent a lot of money on players.
That's what I mean. Like it's not like if they hadn't bought any players for 10 years,
fair enough.
And fair enough. Then they've got rubbish players
so much
now.
More than anybody, Think about
that's it. They bought terribly, but that's not the Glazers' fault because the Glazers aren't the ones buying these players.
They're still buying 18, 19 million pound players. Pogba was 80 million. They couldn't get a tune out of him. He was maybe badly managed, probably not the right personality you want in your team, and then they lose him on a free 4 years later. That's got nothing to do with the Glazers.
I think it's greed. I think the greed of mate. I was going to say the fans there, but it's not the fans. It's like the club. If you put the club as a whole entity, they've been greedy. The players they've signed have not been smart signings. They've been greedy signings. They've gone for these big names of Sancho and Pogba and all these things who weren't. Where there's never been a plan, and they've been so broken in their plans that they keep having complete new regimes start every season, don't they? But it feels like the whole club has been greedy, and now we're seeing the fruit of all of that after however many years.
Tell me this: over the last 6 years, you get Klopp in rather than whoever it was at the time. You get Salah in for 30 mil. You get Mane in for 30 mil. You bet Van Dijk rather than Maguire. You do a few more different things, and Man United are successful. Does anyone mention the word Glazer?
No.
They wouldn't have spent
they spent the same money.
They probably would have spent less.
Yeah. And I think we should put on record here that actually this is no way defending the Glazers here in what they're doing to that football club, because there probably is an element to it. There probably is a percentage to it in that the whole feeling around the football club is awful if you have awful owners. I think, Rory, you'll agree to this. You've gone through the Hicks and Gillette regime.
Yeah.
You've gone through the Hodgson era. Like, there is a feeling around the club where it does filter down. There is this top-down thing that happens. My point here is that I think you can still expect a lot more from the football players on the pitch here, and that at the end of the day, sending 11 men out to play against 11 men with a manager that's on a lot more money and players that are more expensively assembled than the opposition teams, you can't be losing 4-0 to Brentford and then going, yeah, it's the Glazers' fault, because it's not. It's down to those 11 players, their attitude, and the culture that's been fostered inside that dressing room, which Cristiano Ronaldo is the poster boy for right now, isn't he?
But that's the thing you mentioned there, Rich, is there is issues, with the ownership. None of us are going to defend them, but you spent 50 million on Lisandro Martinez. You've brought a left back that just wasn't a non-priority. You've gone for Frankie de Jong all summer when it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. Where's the shortlist for Man United? Where's the other options? Where's the actual process of going, right, we can't get him, but who's the next best option? Because for when you look at the big teams' recruitment, yes, Man City buy expensively. Yes, Liverpool have brought expensive players, but they've always gone, that is the player we want. If we can't get him, then that's our secondary option. Right, that's all we're happy with. But at the moment, it just seems like, Erik ten Hag knows Frankie de Jong. Well, if we can't get him, then we won't bother. Or we'll just keep relentlessly pursuing somebody that clearly isn't going to come. It's just absolute madness.
Eriksen's available. Let's just go for him, even though we've got Fernandes. We're going to have to try now to fit him into a team. What's the point? Eriksen's a brilliant player, but...
Have you seen they're going for another 10 in Mateus Cunha? Like, that's the latest one. And another attacking midfielder.
It doesn't make any sense, because I've tried to think about what they need. I've tried to put myself into the shoes of not only the manager, but the recruitment team. And first and foremost, you have to make a formation which hides your weaknesses as best it can. And I don't know what they can do. The best I could come up with is a 3-4-3. Getting rid of just no wingers. Rashford, Martial. I don't think they're so out of form. They don't want to be there. They're talking PSG.
Seems slow.
Don't even bother. But even if you're going to do that, you need 2 new centre backs. You need 2 new centre mids. Defensive centre mids, hard hitting, good quality centre mids, and they're just not going for them.
Where's the accountability in that football team? That's what I want to know. Like, how many weeks in a row now can Sancho drop these stinkers? How many poor performances have we seen from Maguire where he's still in the team and he's going to stay in the team? Like, what has Diogo Dalot done at any point? What's Diogo Dalot done in the past, 8 months where Wan-Bissaka's not a good footballer, but I don't think he's worse than Diogo Dalot in any way. And maybe that's picking out one specific player. I don't think Dallow's even the problem here. But where's the accountability? If that's Brentford, if that's Thomas Frank in his Brentford dressing room, if his players weren't performing, they don't make the team, do they? for Manchester United, because they are these big names, they've been greedy with the profile of the player that they've brought in, and they don't have this cutthroat approach. Those names are still being picked on that team sheet, even if they are nowhere near performing at any type of level. If Cristiano Ronaldo is actually throwing these hissy fits and his attitude is that poor as being reported, which is just the reports, and we've not seen that, we don't know that for sure, of course. Why is he in that football? Why is he in that 11? Why is he starting that game? Like,
well, they just have no other option. That's the problem, isn't it? They haven't brought a striker. I mean, I've been sort of saying for about a year now, I really hope they don't get Declan Rice, because he seems like the perfect player for them. They need that industry in midfield. You're crying out for somebody that's going to break down the ball a little bit better. Maybe, he's getting on the ball much better, Declan Rice, and that box-to-box midfielder. Somebody like that just seems absolutely perfect. But
they have to drop down a level from Declan Rice now.
But do they? Do they? Players still seem to want to go there.
Get him. Yeah. But I think that's the problem. The wrong players.
Yeah. Is that part of the problem here, though? That maybe like Declan Rice is probably he'd be an idiot to go to Manchester United.
I mean,
one.
They're chasing Frankie De Jong, who doesn't look like he's going to come. They may as well spend the same frivolous effort trying to get somebody that they actually need. It's just you look at them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, a functioning scouting department though goes and finds an Ibrahim Sangare from PSV, for example, right? Someone who is actually, and I'm sure that they know all about Sangare, player like Ten Hag, etc. But from being in Holland, but go and find that player, the player that Liverpool would find here, that a Leicester would go and find here, and the one that is right for your system, that exact player that you're talking about, the player to get on the ball and be an engine in that midfield, the player that can actually go and play as a 6, that isn't Christian Eriksen. But they're too. That's what I mean by this arrogance. They seem too arrogant to go and pick those players up. Maybe actually what they've done with Malacia is exactly that. Maybe that will turn out to be a smart signing eventually. But they didn't need a left back, did they? They've gone and signed a left back where they didn't need. Like, they're doing these smart signings potentially in positions they don't need, which is where the recruitment seems all over the place. It's just a disjointed circus of a football club at the moment, and I just feel like we could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. I could anyway.
So I've got a question. Do we now have to look back and give Ole more credit?
But we said this when he was there with Mourinho, didn't we?
Because look, I mean, Ten Hag, he did a good job at Ajax. I know it's not the best league, but he got to the Champions League semi-final. He bred some real good young players. Maybe got lucky with the young players that came through. Who knows? I didn't follow it too deeply. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was, people were trying to push him out for years. And he would consistently got them in Champions League. He got them second. He had some really good results. Maybe he did a better job than we thought.
I think you're right, because I think actually what he did have was the buy-in of the players, and he had that, and he managed to foster a culture in that dressing room that wanted to play for him, but lacked the tactical nous. And maybe he had more tactical nous than maybe we gave him credit for, probably, because like you said, he did get results from them. Whereas Ten Hag, it seems to me that he hasn't got the dressing room buy-in, but does have the tactical nous. But you can't have one without the other. Maybe he doesn't quite have the tactical.
Yeah, does he have a tactical nous? I mean, he hasn't showed it. He hasn't showed it so far, has he?
He hasn't. But that's his. That's what we think of him to start with, isn't it?
I mean, just one final point on this sort of arrogance that we talked about. There was an interview, wasn't there, last year where Ralf Rangnick said something along the lines of, we need 10 new players. Now, he's gone. Now, we don't quite know why, whether that was his decision, the club's decision, but that does just go back to this arrogance that you've got somebody there telling you that we are massively in the mud here. And then he's gone.
They brought in specifically for that, right?
Exactly,
to be the consultant, to be the guy to help them get through and manage this situation. And they've ignored him.
He's been honest, and then they've just gone, actually, we don't really like your point of view. It's just criminal, isn't it? It's absolutely criminal.
But at the same time, whilst I completely agree with that point, why is the answer always, we just need to buy loads of new players?
Yeah.
Sometimes part of being a manager is making players better who is on your books.
Yeah, because you can't do that if you're a Brighton manager or if you're a Southampton manager. You can't do that, and they've still got they're managing under these budgets, which goes back to that thing where you can expect more from these players on the pitch despite these other things going on, because these things have been going on. I think it makes me think about the way that Newcastle managed to survive the Ashley era and get through it. Actually, I mean, you're seeing them thrive now. I mean, they're doing quite well, aren't they, after that? So yeah, I think, as I mentioned, we could talk about United for hours, but I think we should move on. I would like to hear comments, though, on this. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you do leave those comments down below. What is your take on what is going on at Manchester United at the moment? Because
so before we move on, should we just have a couple of seconds on Brentford, because
yeah,
they look brilliant, didn't they? In all fairness, and look, they had a tough start to the season, and now they've got some good games coming up.
Yeah,
they
really do.
Yeah, and people wrote them off quite a lot. I think most people had them towards the bottom of their table. We talked about it last week in our predictions.
Leicester away, wasn't it, last week? And they got a draw, beat United, and now they've got Fulham, Everton, Palace, Leeds, Southampton. 2 or 3 wins from that, and they're right on their way to safety.
They've just brought in Damsgaard as well, haven't they? Who seems like a really good signing. Only 22 years of age, I think. You know, he looked really bright at the Euros, playing for Denmark, and again, it's just another.
Can't keep Ericsson.
Exactly.
Bring in Damsgaard.
But it's another astute signing, isn't it? And he seems to fit what they want to do. They've got Josh De Silva back from a long-term injury, albeit he was fortunate to score on Saturday, but he got one against Leicester off the bench, and you know, Tony's always going to get goals, and Buemo's bright, and then they've got the solid Ben Mee addition to the back four, haven't they? Just, again, really smart recruitment. Smart recruitment,
and I tell you what, that it is the stark contrast of that Brentford side and we talk about the arrogance and the greed and the big names of United. You've got players like Norgard and Jensen and Janssen, about Roslev, like all these players who are the everyman might not even know who these footballers are, and they've gone and got a 4-0 win against Manchester United. Now, the names of Manchester United, it speaks to the management and that culture in that dressing room, and actually it's the perfect stark contrast to that United setup, isn't it?
Against a Man United team who wouldn't touch them with a barge pole.
Yeah, wouldn't go anywhere near them, yeah.
But that's how you build. You know, you could have a couple of these players. There's some really good players around the Premier League that could improve Man United. But like you said, too arrogant to go and get them.
Yeah. Before we do move on to our predictions for next week, should we have a quick little roundup of the other Premier League games? We're going to focus a little bit more heavily in these episodes on some standout games from the weekend. We've chosen the Liverpool game, the United game, and the Chelsea Spurs game this week because I think they were the talking points of the weekend. But there were some interesting results in those other games. Quickly, Villa Everton. Villa are back. Tigers?
Oh, enjoyable game actually. Everton had a real powerful last 10 minutes. We were clinging on. That, what's his name? Amadou
Onana, yeah, he looked excellent, didn't he?
I don't know whether it was just a cameo, but what a player he looks. He really, really changed them. And again,
I tweeted on Onana, it's been 8 minutes and Amadou Onana already looks like the midfielder United should have signed. Just to go back to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, he did look perfect when he came on. He's a big, imposing central midfield player. It looks like he'll really improve Everton, so they do lack that bit of bite.
They still need a striker because, you know, again, started without a striker. Brought on Rondon, wasn't quite the answer. I know they've been hit with injuries and stuff, but again, Richarlison left quite a while ago now. That was quite early in the transfer window, wasn't it? And Calvert-Lewin's always got an injury in him, so again, you should be really preparing for stuff like this.
Does Armando Broja? Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Sean. Yeah.
However you pronounce it, he would just that would just sort out all those problems for everybody. It would get him game time. It would get him more experience in the Premier League, and he would make them a lot better.
I wonder if the Anthony Gordon deal helps that Broja loan move go through potentially.
Yeah,
that bit of business. We saw it with the Cucurella and Levi Colwill, didn't we?
I don't think Frank Lampard's the answer. I think Frank Lampard will inhibit them. But yeah, Villa were outstanding, and you know, good season ahead for him.
Southampton Leeds 2-2. Leeds looked really good in this. 2-0 up. Southampton fighting back. I don't think many people expected that to happen. I think when they saw Leeds go 2-0 up, my thoughts definitely were Southampton looked like they're in trouble, but bit of character show and fighting back to 2-2.
I mean, that's exactly what I said to both of you two when it went 2-0. Oh, I think I'm right that Southampton are going down, and then, fair play to them. They do come back and get the point. Yeah,
fair play to them. Arsenal 4-2 against Leicester. Again, impressive. I think the standout is Gabriel Jesus.
I mean, that first goal was just sensational, wasn't it?
Outstanding, wasn't it? Yeah.
Arsenal, again, looking like as soon as Leicester get back in, they pull away again. That very unlike Arsenal behaviour, where they just seem to get themselves in a little bit of trouble, but pull straight back out of it.
Just touching on Leicester very quickly, and Schmeichel in particular. I haven't read too much about his situation or why he left, but that keeper, he had a nightmare, didn't he? He had a shocker.
Danny Ward.
Was it the second or the third goal? What on earth? How did he not? There was no
goal.
pressure, no Yeah, the Xhaka goal. So they need to sort that out.
They do need to sort that. Brighton 0, Newcastle 0 was, I think, fair on the just looking at it. I think Newcastle, they're both really good teams this season. I think we expect both of them to do pretty well, don't we? 0-0 at Brighton. I think Newcastle will be happy with a point there, to be honest.
I think that's okay for both teams, a point.
I think it's okay for both teams, yeah, exactly. Really quickly through these ones, I mean, we can do Wolves Fulham 0-0 as well. Nothing happened. Mitrovic missing a penalty towards the end. Disappointing for him. Wolves, are you a bit worried? I think some of they're linked very heavily with that Mateus Nunes in the past couple of days. If they bring him in, I think that's a gorgeous midfield, isn't it? Neves and Nunes, and then getting Jimenez back. Maybe they'll be okay with Guedes coming in too, but I'm a bit worried about them and how they've started so far, but I think they might just be okay.
Yeah, they're not going to be what the force they were at the beginning of last season, are they? Where they were really pushing.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be comfortable mid-half.
Yeah. City 4, Bournemouth 0. I think this one went exactly how we all expected it to. It could have been more. Haaland not doing much. Do we have any thoughts on that? Just 8 touches on the ball, 2 passes, I think it was, and one of them was an assist. 2 completed passes.
Is that a reflection on Haaland or how they were playing that day? You know, were they not using his runs? Yeah,
I think it's the reflection of the very low block and the fact that he wasn't needed. They were 4-0 up, so it wasn't like. I think foot off the gas, wasn't it, and stuff.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be too worried about that.
And he just occupies defenders, doesn't he? You know, the
exactly.
way that
he probably facilitates a lot of that just by being where he is, doesn't he? Yeah,
exactly.
That is quite a few touches, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not great.
Especially being new to the Premier League, even as good as his start has been, I personally want to be a bit more involved.
Yeah, I think he was way worse than Nunez was, if we're going to compare them again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, struggled, really, didn't he, compared to...
Yeah. Last game, and I did want to leave this one to last because I think there is maybe just a minute of conversation on this one. Nottingham Forest 1, West Ham 0. What a win this is for Forest.
Again, what a game. I enjoyed it. It had missed penalties, it had some good quality, had some disallowed goals. West Ham could have easily got something out of the game, but I think Forest still deserved it in the end. Yeah,
I think it was a really good game, wasn't it? End to end, and especially it was like one of those, that Leicester playoff goal, whatever it was, like, that one, whatever. It was the way it went up the other end and they scored. It was really good game, and big for Forest because after a bit of a worrying start with that first Newcastle, where they lost to Newcastle, to go and beat West Ham is a bit of a statement of their intent. And with all their signings, I think with more to come in as well, we'll maybe do a bit of a deeper dive on Forest in a future episode because there's a lot to talk about with them. They're a very interesting proposition for this season, aren't they? And a really good win to get them off the board.
Dennis is a good signing, isn't he, for them?
Yeah, I think so. I think Watford fans are sad to see him go, and I think that's always something, isn't it? When you bring a player in, you look at how the club that they are leaving, how their fans are feeling, and I think he scored goals in the Premier League, so he should help them definitely.
Just on a slight tangent, just for 30 seconds, I still don't like how you can buy players once the season's already started. So Watford have played teams with some really good players, as in Dennis, Sarr, looking like he's going, isn't he? Don't know whether he will. But you're looking at, I think they played Sheffield United at the beginning of the season. You're playing a team who has those Premier League players in them, and then they disappear. And never. Yeah,
especially those relegated teams, isn't it? Yeah, especially. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, I think this is, someone tweeted this. I think you should have one day to do all the business, and it should be like
NFL,
it should be announced like NFL draft style. I think that you should have that. Then that would be. I think that is blockbuster. Get that done.
That would be. But why do people wait? I don't get it.
I think you wait because of prices and people want certain moves and then they change. Like if you wait, you know exactly where you stand. You're going to get a quicker answer rather than get messed around, I think is why. But yeah, it seems mental, doesn't it, when you've got those actual deadline day deals, which you then don't get done because you've run out of time.
When you've had months and months to do it,
you miss all that training time and all that, don't you? Yeah, exactly.
The fax machine doesn't work.
Yeah, that was a classic.
Run out of ink.
Yeah.
The fax machines use ink?
They must do,
still exist. Why are we using them?
Yeah, I've got a fax.
Send a WhatsApp, innit?
I've got a fax number for work, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Rather than going into Rory's fax machine details, let's have a look towards next weekend's Premier League action and lodge some of our predictions. I think going forwards, we're going to keep a little bit of a note of these. So as we go through these ones, gents, I'm actually going to write them down for what our predictions are for these games. Let's go through them and say who we think is going to win, maybe a little bit on the score if you want to. But we'll start with the early kickoff on Saturday, which is Tottenham at home to Wolves. What do we predict in this one? We'll go first to Rory.
I'm going to go brave. I'm going to go for the correct scoreline. 2-0 Spurs.
Okay. And that'll see a good start to the season for Spurs, wouldn't it? I think with that draw to Chelsea. Tigers?
Yeah, very similar. Spurs 3-1 I put down just because I feel like they will come out a bit more than they did against Chelsea, leave a bit of space, and hopefully Wolves will get one back and kickstart them a little bit more, because I don't think they'll expect to win there, so at least if they can score, put in a performance. I'm going to
say 3-0 Spurs.
All very similar.
I think, yeah, similar in that I can maybe see Wolves getting one, but I think a Spurs win, definitely. Everton, we've got some 3 o'clocks here then. Everton Forest, let's go. Tigers first on this one.
Yeah, I've put Forest win 1-0. I've put.
Ooh, okay.
Just based on those 2 games over the weekend, really. Forest looked like they had a little bit about them, and they did seem to, one day only at least. They seem to avoid the put loads of new players in and they don't gel curse. They seem to get on all right.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? They did a bit of cohesion there.
Everton, I feel like, will struggle to score a lot of times this season until they sort out their issues. So 1-0 Forest.
Rory.
I'm going to go 1-1. I think this might be a draw, this one. I did nearly side with Everton, but I think Forest might just do enough to get a draw.
Yeah, potentially just showing it in that West Ham game that maybe they have got a little bit there. I've backed Everton to do better than everyone expects them to do, and so far they've been exactly how everyone expected them to do. So I'm going to continue to back them. They're going to win this game 1-0 on Saturday.
Okay, overachieving.
And yeah, overachieving. It's going to be Yeah, they were my overachievers. Yeah. So they need to start getting some results. So I'm going to back them to do it this week. Leicester, Southampton. It's Leicester at home, Southampton away to them. They need a win here, don't they, Leicester? I mean, both teams could do with a result here after the way they've started the season. A draw and a loss for both of them. Is that?
Yeah.
I can't remember. What did Leicester?
Yeah, 2-2.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. A draw and a loss because Leicester lost to Arsenal, of course. So both just on the 1 point. Who do we reckon for this one, Rory?
I think this might actually be a 2-1 win for Leicester.
Yep, Leicester comfortably, I think. They still scored quite a lot of goals, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
4
to be
goals
fair.
in 2 games with and only a point, so I feel like they'll have a bit too much for Southampton.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to go with that as well. I think a Leicester win. Next game is Fulham-Brentford. Rory?
This is one that I was kind of umming and ahhing. I really didn't know what to go for, but I'm actually going to say 2-1 Brentford.
2-1 Brentford. Okay, away win there for them. Tykes?
I've put a Fulham win for this one just because I feel like they're going to come down a little bit down to earth, Brentford.
Yeah, I think I can see that too. I'll go draw. I'll sit on the fence for this one and say draw. Palace Villa. We'll start with you, Tigers, for the Villa game.
Right, where do you want to start with this one? I mean, we've got enough about us to sort of keep Zaha quiet, I think. There'll be no Ed Butts here. Tough one. Away at Palace. I don't know. Palace. I like Palace, to be honest. I think I've put a draw down. I'll be really happy with a draw. And I think it will be a draw.
A draw. Rory?
Yeah, I think this might be 1-1. I think I do like Palace at home. I think they're quite a good side at home, but no, I think it'll be a draw 1-1.
I'm going to back Villa away.
Wow.
Seems a bit rogue, but I'm going to back them because I think they're a fantastic team, aren't they, Tigers?
Love it. That's the first TikTok soundbite.
Bournemouth. The 5:30 on the Saturday is Bournemouth at home to Arsenal. Will Arsenal get 9 from 9 points here, Rory?
I think they will. 2-0 away win, Arsenal.
Tigers?
Yeah, me too. I don't think they'll drop it at this point, but there's a chance of it. We could have an Arsenal-y game. It'd be great to see.
What? Say that again?
2-0. Arsenal-y. Doesn't roll off the tongue like Spursy, does it?
No, it doesn't. That's no wonder that's not caught on as much.
It might do now. Yeah. I'm sure our 12 viewers might, like wildfire.
Yeah, if you're listening, get Arsenal-y in the comments down below. On to the Sunday. We've got West Ham at home to Brighton in the 2 o'clock. Rory.
This is a tough one. I think this might be a draw as well. I'm going for a lot of draws this weekend, but I think this one might be 1-1.
Yeah. Two pretty functioning sides, I'd say. Tigers?
I put the same thing, 2-2, because I can't see which way it's going to go. If it was West Ham win or Brighton win, you wouldn't be shocked, would you?
I mean, West Ham need some points, don't they, really? It's been a fairly poor start for them.
Yeah, I'm going to say West Ham for that reason. I think they need the points slightly more than Brighton do, and I think Sunday kickoff at West Ham, I think they're going to be up for this. I'm going to go for them. There's another 2 o'clock on the Sunday, and that is Leeds at home to Chelsea. We'll go Tigers first on this one.
Chelsea should win this. I don't know how they'll react to Sunday, but I think it should buoy them on a little bit. I still think it was a good result.
I think it was a good performance, wasn't it, as well?
Annoying to concede so late, which sometimes sets you back a little bit. And
yeah, it does.
Obviously, Frank, he got a straight red, didn't he, in the end? Is it the same rules? Is he banned for 3 games?
Yeah, I think so. Should be, I think.
So, see how that affects it, but I still think they'll have too much.
Rory.
Yeah, I think they will edge this one out. Maybe 2-1 to Chelsea.
Yeah, I think it'll be hard fought as well, and I think just about Chelsea. I think I've been quite impressed with Leeds so far this season. But yeah, I think it'll be hard fought, but maybe just Chelsea. 4:30, first real test maybe for City this one. Newcastle host them at St James's in the 4:30. Let's go. Rory.
I mean, will Newcastle even get the first goal against City this season? I think this one... I've been kind of going backwards and forwards on the scoreline, but I think City will definitely win. And I'm going to go 2-1 to City.
Okay, so quite close. Tigers?
No, I don't think it'll be close. I think they'll blow them away still. Still a huge gap, and you'll teach them a bit of a lesson, I think. Yeah,
I think I'm going to go similar. I think City will win this one 2-0. And then the final game of the weekend, as a Liverpool fan, being made to wait till a Monday again, it is Manchester United, and everything we've discussed earlier, hosting Liverpool, and everything we've discussed earlier. Where do we think this one's going to go? I'll go the Liverpool fan first. Rory.
I do think Liverpool will get their first win of the season here. Surely they will do. I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool. Let's be brave.
Yeah, Tigers?
Yeah, I feel like Liverpool build up they have pent-up anger sometimes when they lose, and the couple of results they've had, I think they're due a pasting, and Man United are just dreadful. So this could be 3 or 4-0, I think.
We can live in hope, can't we? And that'll be three unbeaten for Liverpool, title form. That sounds great. I'm going to go for a Liverpool win in this one as well. And I think then that pretty much brings us to the conclusion of today's episode. Please do let us know what you think in the comments down below if you're listening on YouTube, and if you're listening on the Spotify, then hit us up on Twitter, perhaps. Maybe go and follow the Twitter account, and we'd happily have a conversation with you about football. We're all about that here at Panenka. This has been Panenka Weekly, episode number 2. Thank you very much for listening. We hope you have a lovely rest of your week. Enjoy the football. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.